All right, you know what time it is. It's reviewing time, so we got to put the cap in review pose. All right. Let's take a second and talk about a trailer. Everybody loves the trailers, you know. Going to the movies, all the way back from when you were a kid, what you're interested in is not just seeing the movie, but I wonder what trailers we're going to see, what advertisements for the next movie I'm going to see. A trailer's job is to get butts in the seats. It's to get you to come spend your money and your time. Especially these days, it's got to be a hard job to come up with the trailer because, you know, you got streaming services and all this. You know, it's harder and harder to get people to leave the house. So trailers have a real hard job to try to get butts in the seats. So what a trailer has to do a lot of times is it's got to rely on a form of shorthand. It's got to get the idea of that movie across in a very, very quick way so that you will get out of the house, go to the movies, plunk down God knows how much money, $10 I think for this ticket, and then, you know, of course, my famous $5 bottle of water to go see a movie. So they use a form of shorthand a lot of times. You watch the trailers for this movie, and what you see is, you know, a standard sports comeback story. You've got the tortured alcoholic coach who, through happenstance, is put in charge of a hopeless yet plucky team of underdogs, and at first it's just not going well. But then his unorthodox style, he bonds with the students, and suddenly they're winning, and they turn their magical season around, and through bonding with the children, he himself finds his way back. It's the Mighty Ducks, it's fucking Bad News Bears. You can name a million fucking movies that have the storyline that this movie's trailer has. But here's the thing. If you do get out of the house, come to the movie theater, pluck down that $10, buy the $5 bottle of water, and actually watch this movie, what you find is that it is nothing like that. That is, the movie they sold you is not the movie you get. And that's good in the sense that it's a good movie. It's bad in the sense that the cliche nature of the trailer probably makes people not want to see it. I usually see a lot of these movies with a friend of mine, and when I asked her this one, she said no because she doesn't like sports movies, which is fine. You know, they're not for everybody, especially since I don't think there is a genre. Maybe you could make an argument, maybe the horror genre, but I don't think there's a genre of film that is more cliched than the sports movie genre. You really got to be something special to, you know, make a mark in the sports movie genre and stay there because they are so predictable. But that's not what this movie is. So it uses the cliche-ridden format that I just laid out for you. It uses that as a framing device for the actual story, and that is the character of Ben Affleck finding his way back. So Ben Affleck is our tortured coach for this one, suffering from extreme alcoholism, you know, almost comically so in the opening minutes. I am not making light of alcoholism, and I am definitely not making light of the people who have suffered from it or the people who have had to live with someone who has suffered from it. So I know that what they're showing is accurate. But what I find, I'm sorry, in the first couple minutes, the sheer amount of beer and alcohol that he drinks, it gets to a point you're almost like, Jesus. You know, I remember reading Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf when I was in grad school, and having to give a report of it to my grad committee. And I said, I felt like my liver was going to shut down just by reading it. And I kind of felt like this through this movie, is that you really do get the feeling of God. It's funny because you get the feeling of, you know, Jesus, my liver's shutting down to, I'm kind of thirsty. Because all you see is this guy, doing this for, like, God, I'm thirsty. I'm sure that is not what they were going for. But anyway, he is our tortured soul. And we are led to believe that it's just kind of the cliche, his marriage fell apart and all this. Again, you are led to believe the cliches. This movie teases the cliches very well. But as the film goes forward, you find out that no, there is actually a very good reason for his alcoholism. They give you in the trailer, again, they give you the whole thing about, oh, my dad didn't like me very much. I spent a lot of time hurting myself, trying to hurt my father. The whole thing, daddy didn't love me, daddy didn't hug me, daddy didn't buy me a horse, kind of thing. And again, you're led to believe that is the crux of all this, the root of it. But you come to find out that it is not, that there is actually a much darker, much more heartbreaking root behind it. Sorry, I'm stumbling over words. It's midnight. I've been up since 5, so I'm tripping over words here. And yeah, I think that's this movie's greatest strength is that it creeps up to the cliches. It uses the shorthand of the cliches to paint a much more interesting character piece and character study. For instance, when he goes and meets the basketball team for the first time, the assistant coach gives him the rundown, and it sounds like at first like it's your standard list of sports movie cliche kids. You got the quiet one who is secretly the most talented on the team. You've got the one named Chubbs, but that's not his real name, and he's the goofball. And you've got the showboat over there, and there's the captain, but he's not really as good a captain as we would hope. All of these characters. You can name them from a dozen of these movies. Side note, before I go forward, what is it with these movies and having the fat kid with a name that indicates that he's fat? No, not meaning to, fat shame or anything. I know quite a few heavier set students, and not one of them likes to have a nickname that calls them fat. It's just not, it's chubby, dumpy, whatever. So what, but again, it uses that shorthand and you go, okay, we know what this is going to be. And the characters fit those stereotypes until they start to slowly shed them to reveal deeper and more interesting characters underneath. The showboat gets benched and then kicked off the team, and then immediately comes to Ben Affleck and says, I want back on. He doesn't, there's no big dramatic, whatever. It's him someone put him in his place and he came up and, said, I'm sorry. And they show that it takes a while for him to get back the respect of the team. They make the inevitable change from the captain, who's not that good, to our quiet hero, who really is the heart and soul of the team. And you're like, okay, so now this guy's going to be all mad and hurt, but he's just like, no, it's a good choice. I'll follow your lead. It's like, okay. The Chubbs kid really doesn't have much of a presence. He's a funny dancer, and the coach tells him, knock off that dancing shit until you've won a few games. Then we'll talk about bringing it back. And he goes, yes, sir. He doesn't fight him on it. It's, this movie takes all those cliches, sets them up, and when you're expecting them to pay off, it actually pays them off realistically. And you're like, okay, thank you. Yeah, I like that. But we can't really talk about this movie without talking about the Affleck in the room. Because Ben Affleck is a derisive, he's a controversial figure. Again, midnight. I also thought the guy coming this way was about to clip me. So, I was a little, my attention was on the driving. My mother will be happy about that. Anywho, Ben Affleck can be a controversial figure. He's a star that has really gone through every stage of stardom that one can go through. He's gone through superstardom. He's gone through artistic success. He's gone through Pariah, Comeback Kid. You know, the guy himself is almost a walking cliche. And his personal battles with alcoholism and substance abuse have been very well documented. So you really do get a sense at certain points in this film you're not watching a movie so much as you're watching a confession, which makes it uncomfortable in one hand and pretty admirable in the other, that you'd be willing to kind of plaster your personal grief kind of up there for the world to see. There's the times in this film I felt less like Affleck's audience as I did his therapist. But here's the thing. Here is the truth. No matter how you feel about Affleck, you cannot deny that he is damn good at his job. Whatever his role on the film may be, he's damn fucking good at it. I've always held that Affleck was a decent actor and a brilliant director, and I still stand by that. But he's always been a very good actor, and one of the things, once he got out of his, difficult adolescence, even though he was in his 20s, that kind of early stage of his career, he is very good at playing natural. Affleck doesn't look like he's acting. I mentioned in my last review that Kristen Stewart really looks like she's acting. She is really trying to act. Ben Affleck doesn't have that problem. And I don't know. Actually, I do know, because I was going to say that I don't know if it's just the subject matter that feels very close to him. But no, you look at a lot of his recent films. You look at Argo. Look at The Town. You know, even certain spots, look at Good Will Hunting. And even though I love Good Will Hunting, one of my favorite movies, but it was in the early stage of his career, and he was still in a very, very showy kind of performance style. But even look at certain moments in that, and there is a naturalism to him and Matt Damon that you don't see in a lot of actors these days. You know, you really feel, no matter what they're playing real people, which is the strength of them as actors. And he is really giving it everything he's got here. It is a great performance. Subtle, minor, but heartfelt and honest. You know, like I say, you wonder, there are certain scenes in this film I'm watching going, all right, he's pulling from real life experience there. So yeah, he's very, very good here. Again, I know it's, a lot of people have they want to write him off. Maybe they're just tired of hearing his name. I know it's a name, there for a while, you got really tired of hearing about him. And I can understand that. I'm not, if that's the way you feel about the situation, I get it. But for those who are willing to write him off, let me just drop this on you. Just something to consider. Right now, we all love Robert Downey Jr., don't we? We just love Robert Downey Jr. He's the founding father and heart and soul of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, helped rewrite how movies and blockbusters are done. We love Robert Downey Jr. And if you're in your 20s and maybe 30s, you may have heard that he had some problems in the past, but you didn't really see it. Well, let me tell you something, folks, from someone who was there. He went through this exact same bumpy ride that Affleck's going through, and it was the same roller coaster. He's back. He's doing great. He has this new part, this new movie. He's so good. Look at him. Oh, he fell again. And he's back. He went to rehab. He's fine again. La 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 la. Oh, he's down again. It took him a long time. And I will even say, and I'm hoping I don't jinx the guy by saying this, but I remember when I went and saw the first Iron Man movie, and they started laying those seeds for the Avengers, and those seeds began to grow a bit, so it wasn't just kind of a fun end of movie thing. There was this part of me going, oh, I'm so excited, but there's other part of me going, I wonder what they're going to do when he falls off the wagon again. Now, luckily, that has not happened as of now, and I hope it doesn't. It looks like he's got his life together and is moving forward. And I hope that maybe doing this movie helped Ben Affleck maybe clear his soul a little bit, and maybe he can finally start to find his own way back. Slight detour there. As I said, what I really love about this movie is the million tiny little subtle things it does. Like I say, the moments of this movie don't happen in big, overly dramatic, big speech type things. It's the small moments that make the difference, just like in real life. Let me tell you like a great moment that I really connected with. Where he starts to turn around, because before he's drinking, he's drinking every night, he's drinking every day, he's just drinking. Where it starts to turn around is they're on a bus ride back from one of the games after he was cussing and swearing at the refs and everything, and the team chaplain sits down next to him. It's a scene from the trailer, and he says, we have a code of conduct, and all that, and they have a little conversation, and the chaplain says to him, don't underestimate the influence you could have on these boys. And that was the turning point. It wasn't a big speech. It wasn't a big, the old coach came by and took him on a walk and told him all these great things. It was a simple statement that got him thinking, that started, the way back. And I really relate to that moment. I remember again when I was in grad school, before the start of every year, the chair of the department brought all the grad students together to introduce us and to kind of give us the talk. And one of the things he said was that some undergrad is going to look at you and they're going to see a role model. They're going to see a person they want to be. So you need to be careful about the behavior that you demonstrate in front of them, because they're going to look up to you. And I remember thinking, like, the first year or two, I think it was, I can't remember. No, it was definitely the second year as well. I was an ass. He said that, and I remember thinking to myself, that's not true for me. No college kid is looking at me and going, that guy, that's the guy I want to model my life after. And I didn't understand that statement. And I'll be honest, I didn't respect it because I didn't believe it. I looked around at all the other people in the room and I believed it for them, but I didn't believe it for me. I didn't think that was my reality. I thought they're going to see right through me. They know I'm not someone to emulate or anyone they want to be like. But I paid the price for my ignorance. And today, even though, I'll be honest, this is the thing with doing reviews this late at night, a lot of my, guard is down, so I'll just say things that I wouldn't normally say. I look around at the other teachers in the room when we do and I'm like, I'm not on any of these guys or gals' level. I am nowhere near. I'm a fraud. These people worked hard to become teachers. I took a couple classes to get certified. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know. They know how to reach students. They know how to connect with students and all this. And, I still feel that way, but I am smart enough now to know that how you present yourself in front of students and in front of young people matters. And it's something I try to impart to my kids, meaning my students, my upperclassmen. How you conduct yourself in a rehearsal is how the underclassmen are going to do it, because they see you do it, whether they know it or not. And again, I'm going off on a lot of tirades here, but again, that's one of the things I like about this movie, is it gets me thinking about those things. So I really connected with the fact that it was that statement, a very simple statement, that sets him on the road. I also like that this movie keeps it real, to use a tired phrase. When he eventually has the the trip up, when he eventually relapses, because that is a thing that happens more often than not, he gets fired. And there is no heartfelt speech that gets him back on the team. There is no, bold gesture. No, he's fired, and he stays fired. Actions have consequences, and this movie shows you that. I also I'll spoil it a little bit here, going back to my original thesis statement about how this movie uses the cliches as a shorthand to kind of get you acquainted with what's going on before it hits you with the actual goings on of the film. So obviously you can pretty much guess the team makes the playoffs. And we as the audience don't see how they did in the playoffs. Because it wasn't about that. It wasn't about if they won the big game. This film has kind of the Rocky Balboa theory in that the winning doesn't matter, going the distance matters. And that's not something you see in a lot of sports movies. A lot of sports movies are afraid to have the team come up short because they think that undersells the message. And I think this movie, we don't know if they come up short. So, I really respected that. So is this movie perfect? No, it's not. I mean, it's a little long in certain spots. There are certain points in this movie. I'm just going to spoil it. Spoiler alert. I was trying not to, but to talk about the next point I have to. So what we find out the source of his drinking is that he and his now ex-wife had a son who died of cancer. All right, and that's what really triggered his relapse. He had drinking and drug problems before that, but that's what triggered the relapse, is dealing with that loss. But there for a moment, it looked like every fucking person that Ben Affleck comes into contact with had some tragic thing. He meets the assistant coach, and he's like, "Oh, hi, how are you? Well, why didn't you step up and become the assistant coach?" "Oh, my mom has MS." It's like, oh, for God's sake. It's like everybody he met had some kind of tragic or sick family member. And you find out, of course, that's because, those are the support groups he's in and whatnot. What was really weird? And again, this goes back to the trailer. Watch it. One of the trailers they showed for this is for that new Disney Jungle Cruise movie starring The Rock, because every fucking movie stars The Rock now. And watching that movie, I'm like, so did they purposely give The Rock shirts and stuff that are 2 sizes too small? Because he looks like, I know you don't need to try to make The Rock look buff. He is buff. You can give him some looser fitting clothing, because it looks like he's about to Hulk out in that. And why that's, ironic, I don't know if ironic is the right word, why that's relevant is that you can tell that Affleck is still pretty built from his time as Batman. I have a feeling, because it's been a while since he played Batman, I have a feeling he liked it and kept up with the workout regime, because he's fucking huge in this movie. And they keep giving him clothes that look like it's 2 sizes too small. So he constantly looks like someone took a fucking bike pump and blew him up. He looks like he's wearing the Shazam costume. That overly padded, overly, done muscle suit. It looks like that's what he's wearing under most of his clothes. It's like what? And his face goes from being big to small to big to small as a movie. There's a shot in this movie where, I shit you not, he looks just like Tom Hanks. Just like Tom Hanks. To the point I'm looking and going, he looks like fucking Tom Hanks. I don't know if that's not like anything you can help, but it's just distracting. I'm going to say, I want to say the movie drags a little bit, but honestly, taken as a whole, I don't think it did. It felt like it did in the moment, but when you see kind of where the movie ends and where they're going, you find it wasn't dragging. So, Okay, here's something else that it did that annoyed me. So every time they win a basketball game, or anytime they play a basketball game, they put the score up on the screen. But what they do is they stop the movie, like everybody freezes, and it like holds for like 2, 3, 4, 5 before the score comes up. So they go and they freeze, and there were a couple times I was like, is the movie stuck? Do we need to tell somebody? And then it goes like, oh, okay, that's what it is. So these are fairly minor complaints. On the whole, I liked this movie. It was a pleasant surprise. Yeah, it was good. It was the tone is quiet. It's oddly relaxing. It's a quiet little movie. And yeah. So you can tell I'm running out of steam here. I'm almost home, so we need to wrap this up. I've made my points, I think. So final grade for The Way Back. I'm going to go a B+ for this one. It was teetering on B- territory, but I think it pulled it out in the end. Yeah, solid B+ for this one. And to close out, I've got to say, I have to give Affleck, again, some big props for, having the courage to kind of put his failings up on the screen like that. And I only hope for both his personal and professional well-being that maybe this time it'll take, because he's a rare talent, I think. And Mr. Affleck, if for some reason you're watching this, kudos to you on your courage for doing this. I know it couldn't have been easy. And direct something, please. Okay, the last movie you directed wasn't that great. But The Town, Argo, those aren't flukes, my friend. Get back in the directing chair. It's where you belong, I think. From one director to another. So anyway, that was that one. A pleasant surprise, this one. If you like character pieces and character work, you'll like this movie. You don't have to be a sports fan. All right, so that is it for me tonight. Thanks for coming along. Thanks for joining me on the drive home. Always wonderful to share this with you. And as always, drive safe, and I'll see you at the movies.